start it up.
Ooh,
there we go.
Cool. We're live. Yeah.
All right. Live. On a very rainy day.
Yeah. Not as rainy as yesterday, but still just as wet. Yeah.
My phone did the shocking alarm like you get before an earthquake
or
or before a flood.
Right.
Yeah. So maybe because I'm out west, a little bit west.
Right.
But
and watch out for mudslides.
Yeah, right. Yeah. They're no joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when they're time delayed too. Like there's no heavy rain, everything's fine, and then just this things just start moving.
Oh yeah.
Houses get crushed.
One benefit of living in a very urban area is we don't really have to deal with that.
Right. And it's all because people built in hazard areas that they shouldn't be building, and they're just greedy developers. That's a tabletop topic.
It is.
But yeah, so how is it going? So let's do our... So hang on, everybody, for just a few seconds. We're going to get our room tone and air conditioning and everything. So, and this time I'm actually going to look at a time. So we're actually seeing how long this went. All right. So yeah, we'll do about 20 seconds of just silence. And this is quickly becoming everyone's favorite part of the.
I was going to say, exciting, isn't it?
Everyone's like, yeah,
all right. Oh, how many viewers did we lose when we started talking again? Okay.
Right. Oh, it just plummeted. Yeah. So sorry about that. That's for the audio. That's for enhancing the audio only experience. So just me looking at my phone. Beautiful. All right. So I think we're all good. Hey, cool. Crispin. Good to see you on the chat. Nice. Yes, there's a mudslide joke that I guess we're not going to do. Anyhow. Nice. Okay, well, let's get started. Let's see if I have my notes. Welcome to the Weekly. I'm Jeremy.
I'm Chris.
And this week on the Weekly, RPG Kitchen, try before you buy.
Ooh.
Dying Earth for Dungeon Crawl Classics and Call of Cthulhu on Kickstarter. Okay. So the 40th anniversary of Call of Cthulhu. Yeah. And
the game.
Yes, yes. Cool. And I promise not to do this, but I'm breaking that promise because we'll be incapable of talking about this anymore.
Will we? Will we?
I don't know. I think it's going to remain.
One can only hope.
Remain dead. But TSR, in fact, is dead. There is no longer a company using the name TSR. And we'll talk a little bit about what happened there.
Sure.
So I guess the hashtag Stop Gaming Fantasy is now appropriate. You don't have to keep gaming fantasy anymore. It's all done. So first, RPG Kitchen. So they're promoting themselves as a creator-focused digital storefront for renting tabletop RPGs.
Oh, cool.
And so they're kind of aiming at smaller developers and letting people get a taste of a game, like being able to play a session of a game or read through a game before they decide if they want to buy it or not. And this is interesting because there's been other news in tabletop is the Trove recently went down. And a lot of people are arguing, even smaller developers. I mean, if you're not a penny pincher and like, you know, trying to squeeze every cent you can out of everything you do, you realize that if your stuff gets put on a website that gets traffic like the Trove, people are going to read it that wouldn't have even thought about buying it before. So it is promotion and it opens markets to you that you didn't have. But you're also, does
it open a market or does it just possibly get eyes on your stuff?
It gets eyes on your stuff. But I mean, that's the difficulty with all kind of piracy, digital piracy online, is a lot of people that download it would have never bought it in the first place. There's digital hoarders, it's a real mixed kind of situation. But I think for people that have trouble, they don't have a marketing budget, they don't have a way to penetrate, all they're relying on is itch.io, search engine results, or Google results, or Twitter basically to promote their stuff.
Call me out again, please.
and I'm just making a list. But so it's interesting. This is, I think, good timing for this because there needs to be more opportunity to try things. And I don't think a lot of. So does Itch do anything like that? Is there?
I was thinking the only thing I could think of. Well, I'm not exactly sure how RPG Kitchen works, and I'm not exactly sure how you would rent it unless for someone to run a game for you. Right? I could see that as a form of kind of renting, and then you decide. The only thing I can think of that itch.io does that's similar is community copies or pay what you want titles. And it's funny, we're kind of kind of comparison, like Brighthammer's been up on itch.io for a couple months now. I put it up like February 12th. I only recently, after revising it a little bit, put it up on DriveThruRPG because the interface and putting things up is vastly easier on itch than it is on DriveThruRPG. Right. Anyway, so I left both of them as pay what you want with a suggested price of $3. Within and I'm not going to go super numbers because it sounds a little bit like I'm bragging. It's been up on DriveThruRPG for about 3 days now. There's been like over 100 downloads because I can get a CSV sales report.
Right.
I've made like less than a tenth on DriveThruRPG than I made in a day of release on itch. Anecdotal evidence, I think people or customers who use itch are a lot more inclined to tip than DriveThruRPG, where pay what you want on DriveThruRPG essentially means free.
Right.
So I think different.
You're gonna let me put 0 in here? Oh.
Yeah. And that's why in larger discussions of pricing, I don't follow my own advice, but I tell people don't shortchange yourself. Don't put it as pay what you want because people won't pay.
Right.
They will pay what they want. They want to pay 0, right?
Right. Yeah,
so if you value your work, put a price tag on it, and then either make community copies to ensure that people who don't have the finances or for whatever reason can't pay for it can still get it. So you're not sort of putting it behind a paywall,
Right.
So I would be interested to know how DriveThru Kitchen, or it's not DriveThru Kitchen, RPG Kitchen kind of lets you rent a title.
Yeah, they talk about, so it's still in alpha, so there's no release yet, so they're kind of experimenting with it, and so it's repurposed from a web app that was developed when they were working on an RPG. So basically, let's see, where's the explanation? So the storefront is accepting any genre of RPG by independent creators or freelancers looking to create another title. The mechanism, they just explain the mechanism as similar to, like an old style. So right now there's a somewhat limited selection, accepting more creators. They're in alpha. So releases can be purchased outright or rented for 1 month at about 20% of the full price. So instead of DRM locking the downloads, the rented PDFs can only be viewed in the RPG Kitchen website during that leasing time.
There you go. Okay.
So all money spent borrowing reduces the cost of the game if you later decide to purchase it. So similar, to how, like, I guess there were like Netflix or GameFly and stuff. They would send you the physical discs, and you could just get a little discount from that rental fee on the full price. Yeah, so that's interesting, and it depends on how stable and kind of every platform that their app is on, because that makes a big difference. If you can't load it on your Android tablet, or you can't load it on, if you have a specific, technical requirements. So yeah, but I think that's a good thing. I mean, the more that this comes out, and a lot of people talk about piracy is a symptom of bad delivery. It has nothing really to do with pricing or anything. It's just like you can't easily get it in the version that you want, the way that you want it. So, hey, somebody scanned a PDF. That's not exactly what I want, but I'll take that because you're not giving it to me. And I think we've seen that with like the rise of streaming services and things. I'm sure movie piracy in a lot of places is way down just because they've made it affordable and they've made it, it's...
I think to a point. I guess it's like tangent with like... I do agree that piracy has some to do with price. But yeah, I think it's mostly more with delivery or access, right? Like I can't, like you said, I can't get this thing through legitimate channels. Time to pirate it. Or if it's like a bigger company where I'm not paying those prices, time to pirate it. I think with streaming services, we're entering like the Wild West where all those streaming services are breaking up. And I think the other thing is, well, I guess it gets back to access, right? I'm not paying for all these different streaming services just for one show that I want from your service. Let's pirate. So I do agree that piracy can, like, I guess, increase your audience somewhat. Like if your stuff was on the Trove. I do kind of have mixed feelings, especially when it's like smaller.
Because that's a bigger hit.
That's a much bigger hit than like the big corporations where it's kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah, and it's true. The interesting thing about the streaming is like early streaming. I think that accessibility helped solve the piracy issue.
Right.
But now that they're doing exclusive original content behind the paywall of multiple streaming services, I'm sure that's being pirated.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sure it is.
Way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it is. It's just accessibility and just making it so. This will be interesting to see how usable this is, and if this looks like a good idea or is somewhat successful. It'll be. I'm curious if Drive-Thru RPG or Itch does something where that's like, okay, we'll just let you preview this. I mean, you could technically screen cap every page if you're a psycho, but you can preview this entire document because they have like the quick previews with the sample watermark on it. But to do something like that where it's like a fee, like you pay an additional like plus subscription and you can look at everything, something like that would just allow you to, and that's what. A lot of the argument, I think, for the Trove was it's a good try before you buy. Right. And a lot of people, they don't want to steal from creators. They want to support things. And especially if, wow, this is amazing. I would have never known about this. And I really want to let this person know that, I enjoy this and I play this with my group.
I think an alternative version or an alternative way to pirating, apart from renting it like RPG Kitchen, which does sound like a decent idea, especially since the rental fee goes towards if you then buy it later. Companies, if you're able to, put out a quick start, or if your game is, kind of big enough or dense enough where you could put out a quick start, like those free quick starts are what I often look at, or the free sample adventures. I go, oh, let's see how this game works. Let's see if I'm kind of interested in it. Cool, okay, and.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, having like a preview of mechanics and things, because sometimes it's very odd on Drive-Thru. The sample pages are like it's like a table of contents. It's like okay, well, take me.
I see what I get,
or you get to see the what is an RPG page.
Yeah.
So it depends, but so we'll see how things move forward, or if there'll just be another Trove if it all fails, and someone will just say, we just set this up in the wrong country. Let's go somewhere where it's never going to be taken down. Well, speaking of something open license developed retro OSR, there's the transition right there. So Dungeon Crawl Classics is on Kickstarter again with Dying Earth. Oh, okay. So they've done source books for the Jack Vance setting. Have you read any of the...
I don't think I've actually read any of the original Jack Vance Dying Earth stuff.
Because they talk about it being a real heavy influence on early D&D.
I know that's the case, right? It's called fucking Vancian magic, so you put it together and I'm like, oh, it comes from Jack Vance's Dying Earth. I see what you mean. Okay.
Right.
But the impression I get is that Jack Vance, the Dying Earth stuff, is a bit more... Maybe I'm wrong. Is that a bit more like post-apocalyptic?
Yes.
Where you get remnants of...
Yes.
What's for us kind of like modern age stuff in a far future fantasy,
right? And kind of like or more like the end of all things, like the sun is dying, like the end. It would be the end of all things. Yeah. So it's interesting, but so I watched a little bit of a live stream about the creators. From Goodman Games. So it's Goodman Games Dungeon Crawl Classics that are putting this on. And they love that setting, and they really wanted to make this work as much as possible. And I think it's a good match. I think what Dungeon Crawl does, because it simplifies, like there's the stats and how you're rolling and everything is nicely simplified in a modern way. And it's very low XP as far as, so I love so they listed what they were doing with the RPG. So it will be the books that will be released are, let's see. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just thinking, I think I have a copy of, at least a PDF copy of Dungeon Crawl Classics.
Oh.
And speaking of adventures, I bought a lot of the modules just because I thought a lot of them were decent looking, and I kind of like that old school like OSR, like the illustrations and stuff. And for some reason, and I forget exactly why, the actual Dungeon Crawl Classics rule set kind of didn't hook me.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Like I forget why, and it wasn't like, oh God, what the am I looking at? It was just like It didn't seem to do anything super special for me, but kind of like we talked before about how OSR, like a lot of it is similar enough where the modules, with a few tweaks, I could go, I'm running this, right? And like I'd even run some of them in Dungeon World,
nice.
Which is the 2D6, kind of PBTA game, where of course you have to like restat everything, but just kind of like the settings and doing all that stuff and the adventure ideas and maps. I liked those. So,
oh, very cool. Yeah, so I found the contents.
That was my intention.
Nice. So so Dying Earth they call the fictional future set in the distant twilight of Earth. So as the dim red sun sheds the last of its life, at the end of the world, magic is indistinguishable from technology. Bickering magicians squabble over supernatural treasures, and their minds are filled to bursting with many complex magical formulations, as many as they can memorize, as they employ the service of strange creatures to best their rivals. So doing a box set with 3 books, a map, and more. So the 3 books are the Player's Librum, which provides all the information for players and judges on creating characters, etc. The Primer of Practical Magic, 35 new spells, and spell creation, as well as 14 curses. The intimate
spells.
Yes, the intimate anatomy of several creatures and personages of the 21st Aeon. That's their
that's
monster
the
manual.
Yeah.
And they do really well. So, like you were saying with the illustrations, though, too, it's gorgeous. Like,
I like them,
everything that they did. The cover work is really nice, painted illustration that is very evocative of that time. Yeah, that's the nice part. So they're also doing 6. There's 6 modules, and they do them by level. They kind of do them by, and because you so slowly progress, you start at level 0, then it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's all of the adventures you need because you retire. If you've made it that far, you're kind of call it.
I wonder, like talking about Dungeon World and the Dying Earth thing, like if you're that far in the future where the sun's like a red dwarf or like a red giant or whichever one it is. Thinking about the Dungeon World supplement, Last Days of Angel Kite. I love that setting, but it's different in tone, but it's a similar thing. It's like these are the end times. Like you're adventuring, you're moving around during the time when the world is just going to end. And here's all these other different ways it could end. Sounds like it might be similar with the Dying Earth. Like you're at the end times, right? Similar with Morkborg too, I guess, right?
Oh, right.
They all might all be different tone, but I kind of wonder after a while how appealing adventuring during kind of that time period is.
Right.
Like you either have to be, we're all fucked, might as well do this thing, or you got to do maybe we can still save the world kind of thing.
Kind of glass
half
full.
I don't know which one Jack Vance's Dying Earth is.
Yeah, I'm curious. Yeah, too. What the tone of it is, but I think that's probably what it is. It's like you're questing for a reason. Like maybe there is something that can save us, and if we delve deep enough, we may find it. And it sounds like from some of the titles of the actual modules themselves. I'll just read through a few because they're wonderfully titled. So the Black Obelisk, the Laughing Idol of Lar-Shan. Lar-Shan. The Sorcerer's Tower of the Sanguine Slant, Magnificent Machinations of the Grand Exposition, the Mind Weft of the Moonstone Palace, and Penumbra of the Polar Ape. So I want to play all of those adventures just based on how they titled them. Yeah, because they did a really good job of
There is definitely something about the way those kind of like old school adventures are named. I'll have to dig it up. I put together I forget, like a D12 or D20 generator that just spit out titles like the whatever of the whatever
Nice.
and it generated stuff that sounded almost exactly like that. So like it's funny, there is definitely like a tone and a feel to those kind of old school modules. And if that's what you're going for, then I think you kind of need to use those.
And kind of the same way, like the titles of either sci-fi short stories or mass market novels. When we're looking at that's just I just want to read that, either the illustration on the front or the title. They're just like I got to find out what the Dark Temple.
I know it's going to be crap probably, but I got to find out. Yeah.
What are these apes doing? What's happening? Yes. So that's on Kickstarter now. And so if you're a fan of Dungeon Crawl Classics, this is definitely a labor of love for these guys. They really love the Jack Vance's work, and it looks like they're doing a really nice adaptation with this system of that. So very true to the original.
I would be interested to know what if any changes are to the system, or if it's just kind of like a cosmetic change. Because I'm pretty sure Dungeon Crawl Classics has Dungeon Crawl Classics. Then they also did Dungeon Crawl Classics Lankmar, right? The Fritz Lieber, Fafford and the Grey Mouser setting and all these books. And now they have the Jack Vance's Dying Earth.
Right.
So I haven't looked at any of them all that closely, but similar to Free League's Year Zero engine, I would like to know what, if any, mechanical changes have been made to better reinforce kind of the themes of each setting.
Yeah, they talked mostly about like character classes, monsters, spells that they were adding to the setting. So they didn't say anything mechanical in the...
Even though, sorry to cut you off, like even those are potentially iconic enough where it's kind of like, oh, all those monsters or whatever, and again, not knowing the Jack Vance stuff well enough, I can't say what they might be, but like these things from the book are here.
Right.
And sometimes that might be enough to just go, oh, we're playing that setting.
Yeah, right. That's what, yeah. So so we'll see how that what that looks like, but what they're producing looks beautiful, and the enthusiasm from the designers was really nice to hear in this time of negativity. We'll get to that.
Yeah. Speaking of negativity.
But also on Kickstarter, and this is to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the iconic first edition of Call of Cthulhu. So they're doing a reissue, so kind of a digital cleanup, correct some typos, get everything nice and sharp, reissue of exactly the first box set for Call of Cthulhu. And it's released. It was a little bit confusing in their kind of in the pledge levels, because there's a 1-inch box and a 2-inch box. I was like, okay, you should maybe explain that a little bit more. But they literally showed in their video, the video of course helped. He just held up the boxes, and then they just produced a deeper box so that the higher pledge level gets you, I think, 5 additional supplements. Okay. So it's the 1-inch box is an exact replica of kind of what was on the shelves in 80. What would that be?
80s?
80, early 80s, 81. I don't know if it is the 40th anniversary. If this year.
Oh, yeah, hey, math.
Yeah, right. So like the guide to the 1920s, the world map, character sheets, character silhouettes, and the rule book are all that's included in the basic set. And then the 2-inch box just gives you the extra room to keep all of the kind of the the early supplements, the kind of classic early supplements. So Shadow of Yog-Sothoth, The Asylum and Other Tales, Cthulhu Companion, and the Trail of Sathalga. Yeah. So these are all booklets, like like softcover booklets with different campaigns. Oh, and Fragments of Fear as well. So that's all 5. And so remastered and cleaned up. So these aren't going to be like scans that are done print on demand, because that's a thing that some of the stuff you can buy print on demand on drive-through has that. Okay, they scanned an original book and then they put it through a print on demand process, and they didn't do the premium. So it's a little fuzzy, and it's a little not. The blacks aren't black, you know. But so they did. It looks nice. I mean, they look really really beautiful. They kind of held up all their proofs on their videos. So take a look at that on Kickstarter if you are a fan of Cthulhu. And I'm wondering if how playable like first edition is compared to because
couldn't tell you.
This would be for collectors.
I think I had 4th. I think the book I had was 4th.
Right. So I
never actually played it either.
It'll be nostalgia. There's nostalgia and the collector aspect of it, in the fact that they, you can have not a digital copy but a nice physical copy of those original books. But I'm wondering if anyone's going to bring it to the table.
I'm sure people will.
Yeah. So that's and also too, like the original settings, if they haven't re-released them for later editions, this is your chance to try out all those original.
I wonder
tales.
if it's in the mechanics again, not having played it, but I know it's a D100, and how different are the D100 mechanics going to be across the different editions, right? I mean, like I'm sure there's some differences, because otherwise why have a new edition? But I imagine it's going to be easier in converting like older modules to run a newer game when the systems are fairly similar, like if they're all a D100.
Right. Yeah, and it may just be some kind of streamlining, like, limiting a few of the extra tables that you would be using or whatever in later editions. Yeah, I don't know exactly, but it's there, so I'll put links to that anniversary edition. And very fun to see that. But, so we're talking about revivals and reprints of old things, but there is also
the revival of death.
The death of something. So the elder god of TSR now slumbers. So TSR is now officially dead. There is no company using that name to promote or sell or do anything. So
Yeah,
so grab all those travel mugs and keychains you can from the
really.
Lake Geneva shop.
Wow. Yeah, because what, the TSR2 that was doing Top Secret is now something like Solarian Games?
Right. Yeah. So Jason Elliott has officially changed to just show his complete separation and not affiliated at all. Has changed. And I love that logo. That logo is
cool.
nice. Yeah. So the Solarian Games is the new name of, and so they'll continue, of course, to do
License Top Secret?
Yeah, to do the license for Top Secret. And that was also who produced the Gygax magazine before it got the kind of don't do that anymore from the ex-wife, the widow of Gary Gygax. But so now in a very strange move, and I guess it's basically their only choice, they so quickly tarnished that name and basically made it
unusable.
Yeah, unusable, so that it wouldn't generate any money except just hate dollars if they could figure out a way to make people.
You know what? Hate dollars are still dollars. Right. So if that's what you wanted to go for.
Right. Yeah. Yes. So so they went. So the list of their. So just to kind of catch people up, if you haven't been listening to the drama, is they went on. So Ernie Gygax and a few other business associates secured the lapsed trademark for TSR. Set up the company and pulled in Giant Lands, a Kickstarter that had just finished, as well as naming several established writers, designers, and artists that they were associated with and would be working with that were previous TSR employees or contractors. And then they went on to threaten the OSR community, engage in social media fights, and they've already deleted some of their most aggressive tweets. And they, so
basically shot themselves in the foot in Olympic gold medal timing.
Very fast. Yeah, it is a record. Yeah, we'll definitely. Gotta be. We definitely it'll be hard to beat, but I
accept it as a challenge. What old game license can I squat on the trademark for and then torpedo?
Right. So Solarian Games has since that has distanced themselves. So Jason Elliott said, I don't license, I don't pay any money to them for that name. I'm not dealing with that at all.
And I think Giant Lands is now something else as well. Like not the name Giant Lands, but I think because Giant Lands still exists.
Yes.
I think it's like Wild something.
Oh yeah, right. So
I don't care enough to.
So then they've renamed, and this is a very kind of confusing move. So one of the partners associated in this, so we've heard mostly about Justin Lanassa, but also Stephen Deinhardt. So Stephen Deinhardt had a company that was originally registered in Florida that has now moved to Wisconsin. That is now the
holder
replacement. What's holding what would have been TSR, and the name of that company is Wonderfilled.
That's what it was.
Wonderfilled Inc. And the website, so they set up a website right away. I think they just basically rebranded that TSR website. So Giant Lands is still on there. Of course, Star Frontiers is just completely gone. They just took that up because they didn't have any claim to that at all. Right. But the funny thing that people immediately pointed out is they misspelled the company name on the front of the website. It's Wonderfiled. Get two L's in the name there. Yeah, so Giant Lands is still there. So I don't know, but the creator of that didn't say anything about
maybe they're just staying quiet.
Yeah, right. Like what the actual relationship was. Yeah. So we'll see. Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. But that is the end of this saga. So they claimed kind of persecution by some covert Wizards of the Coast,
and the woke mob.
Oh, the woke mob. Yes. So immediately they were claiming that the problems that they were having were all kind of a conspiracy, and since then social media accounts have been deleted, and we have this rebranding. Yeah. So I don't know what this means, but it's really sad. I mean that's it could have been done so much better, or it could have just been especially if they were going to go for the let's preserve this. Right. We are opening a museum. Let's make this a name, even though it's not something maybe that's active anymore. People can go and remember, like the origins of what this hobby that everybody is enjoying on the tabletop. But immediately Yeah. And it was just, I think there was just really bad intentioned people. It reminds me a little bit of the kind of stuff that was happening to Stan Lee at the end, towards the end of his life. All these shady characters were just popping out of nowhere and saying, we're going to set it, Stan Lee Media, Stan Lee Productions, Stan the Man. And there's all this stuff and they just robbed him of everything using his name, likeness, and his endorsement, got them in the door, to get, big promotion at Comic-Cons and things, and then they just ran away with the money. So it may be that Ernie ran into some people that
I think that's giving a very charitable thing to Ernie, but whatever.
But just promised him, you know how valuable this is, your name and this IP or this trademark can make us millions, and that probably sounded good.
Oh, it did, I'm sure.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it's too bad. But the odd thing is, so Deinhardt, with this rebranding and kind of his ownership of Wonderfilled,
or filed,
posted or filed, it could be filed, posted a Twitter breakup message and said he has now officially, he won't be able to see their reaction to this, but he's officially blocked Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast from the Twitter account for Wonderfilled, because always loved this brand from the moment he saw someone running these games. It was much beloved, and now his heart is broken. So
I'm playing the tiniest violin there, right? No, that Twitter account has largely lapsed just because I don't have time for it. But there were a couple times on the Conan the Cellar Man Twitter account where people would make a point of saying, "I'm unfollowing you," or blah blah blah, or "I'm blocking this," and it's like, you could have just fucking left, right? Your whole deal here is you want attention. That's the sole reason you did that, right? Like you make, I won't be able to see your reply because you're blocked. It's like, dude, then just fucking go out the door, right? The door is there, just leave, right? That's all you want when you post something like that is attention.
Right.
So, boo, boo.
Yeah, so their last attempt at self-promotion on social media. Yeah, right. Yeah, so that's a shame. I mean, and now, this may not be remembered. This happened so quickly that,
possibly.
Yeah, in a few decades, people are just like, oh, TSR, yeah. I mean, so it will just be one of those, didn't something, what was that again? Yeah. So it's still possible that this can be restored, and depending on who, is working with that.
Well, kind of like we had talked about last week. It seems like the thing, or one of the things the new TSR or TSR3 could have done, like we said before, is just start producing modules. Start producing TSR branded modules for OSR retro clones, because there are so many of them out there, and they all kind of work vaguely similarly, where you would have had a nice cross. You would have already had your audience built in, right? And you wouldn't have been competing with another game system for people to say, why do I need to buy this system? It's like, just, nope, here's your content to run in your game. Then after you build that up, after you start bringing back some kind of well-known old school names on there, then put out a TSR branded role-playing game system, and all you had to do was up and do something like that. Yeah. And you couldn't.
Right.
So...
Yeah, and it's definitely like that. That thought was definitely somewhere in their minds, because they're claiming, connections with designers and artists that would have been really nostalgic, and to see the continued work of some of these designers would have been great. But yeah, it's just a missed opportunity, a big miss, a completely So
there's miss, and then there's tape, steaming shit on the floor, and I think this is the latter, right? Because Jesus.
Yes. So, but you can't ever, I don't think anyone's going to ever claim that there were, kind of genius business moves made during the life of TSR.
No, I don't think
at all. I mean, because the end of the original company came because they pumped out so much trash, had associated themselves with like HarperCollins or someone of the big publishers, and didn't realize, bookstores can just return your stuff, and then you have to refund the publisher. And they're like, we don't have any money to do that. Let's go out of business. Yeah. So there wasn't brilliant, ever brilliant management. It was just, they just had kind of lightning in a bottle with the invention of that system, and and some wonderful things came out of there. And some of I'll never forget, some of the things that were produced during that time, and the artwork and everything. That's just like it's permanently in my head.
And that's what TSR3 needed to capitalize on.
Yes, it just needed to celebrate that. Yeah. So I guess the moral of this story is you can never go home, right? Oh, Basically.
Also, don't let Ernie Gygax run your social media account.
Right. Yeah, it's really funny to see. To see this happen, but yeah, well, I'm sure there's grandchildren. There's all kinds of people that can will have a future attempt at this.
40 years from now, dig up TSR again. Yeah.
Yes, but Solarian Games, I'm recommending you produce T-shirts with that logo because that is a nice retro. Yeah, it's a really nice retro logo that they did. So very appropriate for what they're doing. But yeah. So thus ends. We close the book on the TSR saga, and so
some masterpiece theater thing with like the book closed,
and they didn't even give Wizards of the Coast a chance to get their lawyers, going back into that. Well, it lapsed, but we still have this paperwork that proves that we still have So we didn't even get to see that part of it. It ended so quickly.
I'm sure they would have been genius at navigating that. Yeah.
Well, it would have been a conspiracy. Yeah. It would have been the woke legal department. So, yeah. All right.
Cool.
So that'll do it for this week. So where can people find you?
On Twitter, as always. That's Hivemind, HYVEMYND, where I am relisting to A Princess of Mars.
Oh, yeah?
And complaining about what a raging asshole John Carter is. Like, the book ought to be called An Asshole on Mars, because holy he is the goddamn worst.
He's a product of his time.
There's product of your time, and then there's whatever John Carter is, right?
I love the internal, his internal monologue is good.
I loved, I guess the part where he's like, I will slaughter everyone on Barsoom just to get back to Deja Thoris. I'm like, you're a real goddamn hero, aren't you? Yeah, anyway, so I've been talking about that in anticipation of making some Martian themed stuff for Bright Hammer. Cool. That's why I started doing it, and then I'm like, this needs an update. So, yeah. Anyway. Nice. So, how about you?
Oh, so I do a weekly single panel gag cartoon that I live stream the drawing of that. So that's abusecartoons.com, and both on Twitch and YouTube, Abuse Cartoons. And you can see the archive of that cartoon and read a little bit, or read a lot of it. There's a lot of it up there. If you go to gocomics.com/domestic abuse. And if you'd like to support this weekly gathering, please visit Upturned Table. And on Patreon, we are patreon.com/Upturned Table to become a weakling and support this weekly and kind of tell us, what you'd like to see more of, what you'd like to see less of. Ranting. If you like that silent 20 seconds, if that's your favorite part.
More of that. The whole episode, please.
And we will much appreciate the feedback and support. And thanks as always to everyone in chat. It's good to see. Yeah. So our mod Joe, thank you so much. And K5 and Crispin. There's a lot of it's wonderful to have people watching. That was the early thing that we couldn't quite figure out is how to have an audience during a live stream. But that's it for this week. We'll be back again next week.
Later, mortals.
Goodbye.